you. Well, it's a privilege to be with you today and to have this opportunity to share a little bit of time with you. As I go forward on this discussion, if you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll try and notice who you are up there. You're a long ways away, so we'll see how that goes. I wanted to start today by sharing a little experience I've had. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen this balloon flying around Utah County before, but about 25 years ago, we got a balloon to market our business. And about the same time, I became a hot air balloon pilot. And I wanted to share an experience that I had during that time while I was trying to learn how to fly. This saying, "You can't land from here," became very popular with my teacher as we were flying. We'd go way out in the West Desert, almost to, well, there's a place out there called Cedar Fort. And that's where they do a lot of parachute jumping. There's not much out there. So it was a great place to learn how to fly a hot air balloon because you couldn't hurt anything. That's if you were trying to land and you didn't land well. Many times, though, it was much easier for me to try and fly high up in the sky than it was to get close to the ground where I needed to land. And my instructor would always say to me, "You can't land from here," trying to get me to go down lower to the ground. But I was always hesitant to do it because these are not easy things to fly. I mean, you've got to realize that's a 90,000 cubic feet of balloon up above me full of hot air. And so you're trying to figure out how to control that. And if there's any wind around at all, and I'm in the basket by myself, you don't stand much of a chance. That balloon's going to go where it wants to go, and so you have to make sure that you've got control of it. And so it's really not it's really hard to then figure out and learn how to put just the right amount of hot air in, or to take it out so that you can descend where you want to and when you want to. And so it's much easier just to stay high above the ground rather than getting low. And so I learned quickly, though, that I could not land from there. You had to get close to the ground so you could really feel what's going on, the air currents on the ground, to know which direction it might be going and which direction you might go when you get there. Because and most of you probably know this, but in a hot air balloon, as you go up through the altitude, the different levels of altitude, there's different directions of wind currents. And that's how a balloon pilot is able to steer the balloon. Some people say, "Well, can't you have a fan or something on that that'll direct you around?" You can't, because the wind is so strong, the balloon is so big, that there's no way you could change that direction. You just have to find the different wind currents. And that's why he used to say to me all the time, "You can't land from here. You got to get down on the ground where you can feel the wind and you know which direction it's going." Well, I use that as a good lesson for us today and many times in business, because so often we try to stay where we are. We don't want to change. We want things to be the way we want it to be, but yet the environment around us is always changing, and we have to learn to adapt to that environment, just like I had to learn to adapt to getting low to the ground so I could steer the balloon where I needed to go. Okay, so let me kind of then fill in the rest of the story here. This is the beginnings of Alexander's. So that top picture is our first location in Provo, on 2nd West and 3rd North. Not much of a location at all, very small, but was the first retail copy center in Utah County. We later moved next to BYU, just south of BYU campus, and had a copy center there for a lot of the student type work that was going on. Plus we did commercial work. We also had a location in Salt Lake and then another one in Orem. Well, they were all retail copy centers, but I learned really quickly that I didn't like being in the retail business. I wanted to work with corporations, and we found that that was an easier business to be in. So this is our business today. Yeah, it's 34 years. It's a lot of change, but we've been in this building almost 15 years, but we had to change a lot to get there. So just like when I was flying that balloon high up in the air, I had to get down to learn how to get to the ground and learn to fly at a lower altitude. And to do that, and the reason it was hard is you have to learn to fly level. You cannot be putting too much air into that balloon. Well, we had to change a lot to be able to get to this direction. And so I thought to begin this presentation today, I'd show you some of the changes we had to make. So if you were to go to a copy center today and just ask for a few copies, a copy of a book or just of a paper that you're putting together or whatever, that's what we were. We had all kinds of people coming in just needing copies. But it wasn't easy to make a living doing that. You don't get a whole lot of volume with that. And so I decided we needed to change and get more into a wide variety of printing. So today, this might be what you come to us for. It might be some type of signage, whether it's a display on the left for a trade show or maybe a wrap that you might need on a car of some type. We also do a lot of book printing. So you see part of our fulfillment center and our bindery. And books today, we're ready. We can do a one-off book. So if a publisher, so we do printing of books for publishers mostly. And so if they're getting to a point where they don't want to have any warehouse of goods. And so we had to adapt so that our technology will allow us to pull that information for that book or a group of books, and we'll only print one off for that publisher. So they don't have to warehouse anything. It's ordered online, we print it, and then it's shipped out to their customer. We do a lot of fulfillment work where we'll package product for people. That's important because now it allows us to, if say somebody wants to have a seminar in another city, we'll gather all the materials they need for that seminar, put them together, and then ship them to the seminar. We now are into public relations and marketing. We hired last year Pete Cadella, who had his own marketing agency, and we've started our own in-house agency so that we can service our customers because we began to see the change in our industry. Not only did people still want some print, but they were using a lot of digital services. And so today, we'll go out and work with companies in their social media, maybe setting up marketing campaigns using email or SMS. Might be building a website, or it might be putting a marketing campaign together for them. So it changes, and so that way it could also transition into print. We have Divi is what we use. That's our software. It becomes a web store for companies so that they can, it's not for anybody to go online, but we take a company who is very, they have a lot of locations all across the country, franchising for instance. You can see that we've got TCBY and then we've also the Costa Vida shot there. So any of those franchisees, any of those locations can go online and they can be ordering instruction manuals. It might be a marketing campaign, or it could be signage to go inside one of the stores. They can personalize it to their location, but they'll go to one of the websites we set up for them and then customize for the franchisor to be able to reach out to their franchisees. And then we also have what we call Divi Connect, where we'll take products for customers. Like Ancestry.com has a lot of family history, customized family history books that are created online. We do the printing for them and then ship it to their customers. Or this with we kind of missed it here on the slide, but the Dentrix reminder cards, we worked with a software company where we set up a reminder card system for them, where the software was their only product at one time. Today, the reminder cards become another product. It becomes a revenue source for them. We hook into the back end of their software. All the data is downloaded to us every night so that their dentists, who are their customer, can subscribe to the service, and we provide the final product and they're mailed to their patients. So it doesn't even go to the dentist. So our business has changed from just a few copies to offering a lot of digital type services for our customers all over the country and in some cases around the world at different times, depending on what their needs are and how we can help them. All right, so how did we get there? I want to now share with you a couple of ideas that I believe are very, very important for anybody as you move forward, because you've already seen in your careers, even as students, how technology continues to change. The environment around us is changing all the time. And so we need to be able to adapt to that to make changes ourselves. This career circle, so if the dark blue section might be where you are today. Okay? And so as you then graduate, get out into the workforce, you'll change jobs many times. And so each time you've got to figure out, how am I going to make myself more employable and be a great target for somebody to hire? Even with us in our business, we've had to change many times. From the retail copy center, we've made many transitions to get to where we are today. Here's some of the things that have to change to get there. Number one would be habits. And you can see them all around this. So that inner circle is where you are now, and then you keep pushing out, and that circle grows as your career changes. So you've got the habits, relationships, traditions that you might be used to, production systems. That could be processes you might be going through in different situations, whether it's how you do your own job today, or in our case, how we produce things. So these things have to change if you're going to change your business and improve it. Now, let me give you an example. Habits, for instance, or relationships. We could do that. If in our business, if we kept the same relationships I had back in 1980 or even 1990, if all I did was try to keep those same relationships, I couldn't have the business we have today. Not only do I have to be able to hire different types of people, but I've got to look for different types of customers. So the relationship has to change. So get the habits or traditions. In the beginning, we might have hired a press operator for an offset press. Today, I'm running digital presses. If that press operator can't change the way he operates, meaning the traditions he's used to, and this was really tough in the printing business. These guys are used to, for decades, doing the same thing, never having to change. And then they get to working with us, and we're saying, look, you've got to operate this new type of machine, new technology, learn technology. And they're saying, but that's not how printing's done. Most of those people didn't last very long, and they don't work for us today because they wouldn't change. They had traditions, they had habits, they had processes they wanted to use, and they didn't want to change them. So we had to then change people or relationships because we were switching into a different type of technology. It continues to happen in our business today. We have a staff of 4 people in our IT area. We have programmers because every time a customer comes in and wants like that Dentrix thing, the reminder cards, every time they want a new system put together, we have to have programmers available to work with their programmers so that we can talk together and automate that printing process. We've had many programmers come and go because some didn't want to change. They wanted to do it just their way instead of the way that would work with the customer. And so can you get the idea? So as you get out of school, you're here in school, you have certain ways of doing things. I can guarantee you, as soon as you leave school, it will change dramatically. You're here to learn, you'll be there to learn too. But they want you to learn how they do things. And if you don't change, if you just figure, I'm going to do it my way, you probably won't last in that job and maybe not in that industry very long. And you got to be very adaptable to go find new relationships, to seek outside, to maybe find, Facebook might be great for your friends and your social things, but it might be LinkedIn that you have to get on and begin to work with to begin to establish business relationships. So you'll have to be adaptable there as well. So even using new types of technology. This is one of the biggest keys that we struggle with today, is trying to get people to change. From our account managers who are accepting orders from our customers to our salespeople. Always trying to get them to change, and it's not an easy thing. And I'll have another slide in a few minutes where I'll explain how our sales, how we go about our sales process, how that has changed so much, and yet our sales guys sometimes don't want to adapt, and so they get left behind. Their sales begin to drop, and then pretty soon they're out looking for a different type of job. All right, okay, we kind of went off the side, but this is really important, the law of referability. I got the ideas from another individual and began to add to it. The law of referability is really all about you becoming referable. Today, you're trying to do the best you can in school so that you can have the qualifications to go out and get a job. Along the way, you're going to ask people to write a letter of reference for you. So maybe you can get that job. There's 4 very simple keys so that you can become referable in any situation. Number 1, be on time. That's huge. In our business, if we're not on time, we're out of business. When people need something printed, they've got to have it for an event, whether it's an in-house event or it's with customers. And if it's not there, they don't want it. It's not going to do them any good to have it later. And so we've got to be on time. And it's the same thing for you with your, as you move forward, whether it's in a class here or it's in a job. If you miss getting a paper turned in on time, you're probably not going to get the credit you wanted for that. The same thing with a job. If you decide, hey, I don't need to show up, pretty soon you probably won't have a job. They'll say, yes, you don't need to show up. Okay, do what you say you'll do. The two and three are very important. Do what you say you'll do, and then finish what you start. People want to know that they can depend on you. And so if you're a person that's a great starter but not a finisher, you won't last long. You've got to be able to finish what you start. And if you give your commitment, I've got to have a meeting on this afternoon with one of my employees who's not making the commitments. They're not doing what they say they'll do. And it's hurting my salespeople. And so we have these discussions all the time, and you have to have that discussion. And so he's got to be able to change and begin to do what he said he'd do so that they can follow through and give better service for their customers. And the last one is be polite. We run into this all the time where somebody thinks they're better than somebody else, and they treat them that way. That will not get you very far. It won't make you any friends, that's for sure. And it probably won't help you in a job, but you got to treat people well. You know, people... I know there's people in my company, for instance, we only have about 60 employees, but they figure I can do, you know, sometimes from the outside, people think, you can just do what you want. I can't. I've got to be polite to my employees. If I want them to be polite to my customers, I better treat them well. Because no matter what we think or no matter how much we preach to people, you guys, you'll believe this, I know you will. The way I treat you is how you're going to treat me or somebody else around us. And so if I don't treat my employees well, they're not going to treat my customers well. And then pretty soon, business declines, and then, well, sorry you didn't treat them well, but now we don't need you. But it could all start with me. I want to be referable too. I want people to refer my business. So we have to follow these steps all the way through. This life is all about referrals. And if you can't get them, you can't survive. So take this to heart. These are great points. You'll find others you might add to it. We've even added another in our business, started talking about it, and that's just be honest. Just be honest. So many people have a hard time being honest. Meaning, it might be, yes, you're honest, you don't steal, you don't do those kind of things, but it might also be, you tell me what you think. Because if you don't tell me, I can't fix something. I run into that all the time, where people are afraid to come to me and say, hey, this process you put in place doesn't work at all. Well, you better tell me, or else it's going to cause trouble for everybody. So you got to be honest about it. You can't beat around the bush. You can't soften it. It's not, sometimes it's not easy, but you've just got to work with it. Okay, this one's huge. And most companies don't do this. They just want, they want you to come in and do business with them. But you got to give value first. Part of me being here today is I'm giving some value to you guys. I hope there's some value here. But that is part of it. And I'm not going to get paid for it. But that's okay. It might help you, and someday, who knows, it might come back around to help me. It's like when I served in the legislature. You hardly make a penny for that. Definitely not worth my, if I'm doing it for the dollars, it wasn't worth my time. Got great benefit in people I met, but I gave a lot of value to other people along the way. But it returned back to me. So here in this situation, we try to help get our salespeople, our account managers, the people involved in our business to realize we can give some value to our customer first. They don't have to pay for it right up front. One of our sales guys has done so well with this, he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars because he knows how to give lots of value. And pretty soon that customer knows they want his value, his creativity, his ideas, and they can't live without it. And so they're willing to send all of their business his direction because they want him involved in their company. So in our situation, this might be, we give free advice. A customer will come in and they have a book and they want to print this book. They want to get it bound right. They want to sell this book. And so we'll help them understand how it should look. Maybe how they should format the pages. Or we might go to a customer who's got a trade show coming and they need a lot of help to figure out what kind of a presentation they should make at that trade show. So we'll give more than just ideas on the booth or the signage. We might give them ideas on and direction on how they'd organize the trade show, what kind of questions they ought to be asking their customers while they're there, what kind of information they should have to provide their customers. So it might be way outside of printing, but it's going to make them successful. And that's really what you're looking for. You want your customer to be successful, because if they're successful and they trust you, then they're going to come back for more. They're going to want to help you succeed too. So give value first. This is huge. This is, for instance, we're not a high-tech company. And these are usually the ones you hear about where they've got the free lunches, they've got the gyms, whatever it might be. So we decided a few years ago we wanted to give more value to our employees. So we started out with a simple thing like free sodas. So we have drinks that they can have all they want. So a simple thing. Last year we started subsidizing lunches. So every day we bring in lunches from a different company, a different restaurant every day. They might only pay a couple of dollars for the lunch and we pay for the rest. So it became a value to them. There's huge benefit for me on that one. I couldn't believe it. Not only do they like staying around, working for us because of that, but they don't take as long at lunch. They're on the job more. I didn't expect that. But it became a huge value to us as a company. So they're there to make sure the jobs are out on time, and they don't have to leave. So if they're working on a project and they know it's got to be out, they say, the lunch is there. I can go get that in a few minutes. I don't have to worry about it. So it became a huge benefit to us. And so it's things like that that we try to look for to help our employees. But we're giving value first. So you've got to think, how can you help somebody? You know, school, it might be you help somebody with some a project, homework, whatever it might be, understanding a certain concept. Somewhere else, that might come back to you in a different way. Now, it doesn't always work that way, because there's always going to be people out there who just, what's in it for me? That's all they care about, is what's in it for me. And how soon can I get that? Well, they won't last long. You know, they'll burn their way through a lot of jobs and a lot of people because they don't give any value along the way either. So remember that, to give value first. This is the one where our sales guys had to really change. And so this is not so much a concept that you can use all over in business, but it's one that you can begin to understand how change could happen as well. So it used to be, and especially in the copy center days, it was bid and win. Somebody called in and says, hey, I've got this project. I need you to handle for me. Here's the specs. What's the price? And we'd give them the price, and that was it. Today, if that's all we do, and those of you who are in some of the finance classes, you can begin to understand margins and stuff like that. We have to figure out, how do we get a larger margin? Because margin is really what drives the bottom line. And so if all I'm doing is bidding and winning and discounting at every step, I'm going to lose. I'll lose in the long run. So we've had to change to more of a consulting and problem solving when we go out and sell. And this is what you can do too. I don't care what job you're in. You can begin to ask questions. So the problem solving is more all about asking questions and trying to help people figure out, why do they need this? So when we have, and again, the sales guy I was telling you about, he is the best at this. He'll sit down with somebody and they'll say, I've got this project, I need 10,000 of it. That's not our business, doing 10,000 of anything. We do short run print. We do a lot of customization and personalization. And so his first question is, why? Now, it's not often that when a purchasing person or even a marketing person, they say to you, I need this, and then your first question is, why? And that's what we want to know. We want to know why they need that. Even if a person comes in wanting to do a book, we're probably going to ask that same question, why? How are you going to use this book? Who's going to buy it? You know, what type of a market are you trying to sell it into? It'd be the same thing if we went into a marketing person and they say, look, I got to have 10,000 of this. Questions, why? The same thing, we just did a thing for Franklin Covey. They did a big kickoff for all of their big facilitators. They do training all over the world. They brought in the main people, and they had a goal for 10 million of something. I can't remember what it was exactly. So they said, we want to shoot out of a cannon 10 million. Well, it evolved into this, and we came up with the idea with them, 10 million pieces of confetti to match what they were trying to do, because they were trying to drive the point home. This just happened yesterday. Filled a ballroom full, it was just deep with confetti. But it drove the point through, and it was our guy who helped make the suggestion that this is what you could do. And they, you know, hadn't thought about that, but the guy that was in charge really picked it up. Our sales guy is in the creative meetings at his customers. So when their whole creative team gets together, whether it's marketing or maybe it's the people putting together seminars, it doesn't matter what it is, he's invited to be in those meetings because they want his ideas right from the beginning. Because he's asking those questions. Why? How are you going to use it? Who's the customer? What do you really, because somebody else just told that person, give me 10,000 of this. They never asked the question. And so many times we can help them find a better way to use that. Instead of wasting their money on 10,000, maybe they only needed 1,000. But they send it to fewer, but it's more targeted, say if it's a mailing. So the whole idea is to give a lot of value. Again, we're adding value first. We're helping our business by helping them solve a problem. And so we can keep them as our customer. We can also probably add enough value to that product that we help our margins. We don't discount. And you'll find in business you can't discount. You got to begin to analyze that and kind of see where you're headed with some of that. Okay, I'm talking really fast, so if you do have a question, stop me. Okay, this next one, the 5-50 rule. Anybody ever heard of this? Anybody at all? How about the 80-20 rule? You guys have heard of that, I'm sure. And what is it? 80% of what? 80% of your business comes from what? 20% of your customers. In most businesses, if you analyze it, especially in a manufacturing business like ours, 50% of your business comes from 5% of your customers. Don't forget this one. Then there's the other side of it. There's the 55 rule. 50% of your customers give you 5% of your business. Think about that. And I'd be willing to bet that you treat that 50% of your customers who only give you 5% of your business the same way as you treat the 5% who give you 50%. So I put this up here today to get you to think differently about those 5%. You want to help them in a different way because you can't afford to lose them. Now, it won't matter what kind of business you're in or what your position is. You'll be servicing somebody, even if it's inside the business itself. Maybe you don't even touch the outside customer, but you might be servicing some executives or something like that. So analyze who gets most of your business. Who do you service most? And make sure that you never lose that customer or hurt them. It's going to be huge. We're trying now to get our sales guys and our account managers again focus on the customer differently. So we're very direct about that 5%. They know exactly who that 5% is. We do not want to lose one of them. Do not do something to make them mad. Don't be late with any jobs, and don't do any of those jobs wrong. You know, and it'll be that way, and you analyze it. But you'll get busy, and you'll forget about this. And you'll start treating everybody the same. But don't do that. Make sure that you take care with the people that you're talking with and working with. And it'll make life much, much easier as you go forward. Now, so this didn't work out right. Okay, this quote I love, and I want to end with this. And I want you to think about this one a little bit. Because so often, we just get stuck in what we're doing. We get in a rut. And we need to get out of that and get focused on new things. So let's kind of review this if we can. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Being willing is not enough, we must do. Progress is not created by contented people. It is up to us, you and me, to be uncomfortable. Complacency, to refrain from being spectators. Be uncomfortable. There's something else after complacency. To refrain from being spectators and to be players in the game of life. You're going to run into a lot of people in your business careers, in your life, in your work life, and you'll fall into this sometimes yourself. You'll become a spectator. You're just sitting there waiting for somebody else to do something for you. Get you out of the rut. Or you're waiting for somebody to tell you what to do. You're not taking the time to figure it out yourself. The people that will be successful are those who decide that they don't want to be complacent, they will not be spectators, and they really want to be the players in the game of life. There's very few out there, and you need to figure out which you want to be. You know, you have to have a real definite idea of where you're headed. If you wait until you graduate, you'll be in trouble. Start trying to figure it out now. Where do you want to go with this? How do you want to apply your education? You know, most of you won't even get into businesses or do things that your education really was built for. You're going to have to go continue to learn, find ways to adapt. It's so interesting. I keep wondering, you can take this back to the business department, why there isn't a major for sales. I don't know what percentage of you will become salespeople. It'll be high. But you don't have that opportunity to learn that in school where you really need to learn it. And that's why I say what you're learning today will give you some background, but it won't give you everything, and you have to keep learning. But you have to be the one to make it happen. It's like my major. I was in public relations. I use that because I do a lot of marketing. But I had to adapt that degree to build a business. And so you'll be adapting the rest of your life. But you have to still have some idea in mind, some purpose that you want to take with you. And you have to be the person who makes it happen. Those are the people who really succeed. Because if you just go to get a job and go be in that job day after day after day, you'll be, sooner or later you're going to hate it. Most likely you'll try and stay with it, even though you hate it, until finally somebody gets tired of you and fires you, and that might be the best thing that ever happened to you. Because it might force you to go and find the thing you really want to do. So find that definiteness of purpose. Find some direction that'll take you where you want to be, and be the person that makes things happen. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and be the one that makes the difference for all the people you're around. That's all I've got today. If you have any questions, guess I didn't say anything that was really of any importance, but okay.
You were talking about the career circle.
Uh-huh.
You talked about the habits and traditions. I was just wondering, in that context, what is the difference?
You know, they're very close to the same thing. You'll find in some, like with us, with those press operators, that was definitely a tradition. It was more than a habit, It was a tradition, and they didn't want to budge from it. So in some places they will be the same thing, but in others you'll see that it can be pretty different. But you're right; they are a lot the same. Yes, sir.
A lot of the speakers have talked about culture within their companies. And I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around that idea in all business scenarios. You've begun a culture of yours through lunches and whatnot. Can you talk a little bit more about what culture you have been able to develop in your industry?
Okay, and that's a good question, because up until a few years ago, I didn't think as much about culture and what we should be doing so that our employees think, because it's through that culture that they then service the customer better. And so that's why we began to do some of these things, wanting to make sure that we were treating them the way we wanted them to treat our customers. It's funny that sometimes we just use that phrase, treat others the way you want to be treated. And I found in life most people have no idea how they want to be treated. And so that's exactly how they treat everybody else. And so we began to try and help them see maybe how they might want to be treated, and definitely how we wanted them to treat our customers. We're still feeling our way through this, looking for more ways to make it a better place to live. We're having to understand the changes in generations, for instance. So I'm a baby boomer. Now we got the Y generation, right? And so I'm trying to figure out, how do I adapt with that? It is so different from what I do. I have to be very careful. I mean, 30 years ago, I could, I don't want to say reprimand, but get after an employee in a different way to get their attention. If I look stern or raise my voice at all, that employee goes home saying, why did he yell at me? It's true, isn't it? And so I've had to adapt to figure out how do I deal with a different culture in a different way. So you bring culture in a couple of ways. You know, I'm from a different generation, so now I have to adapt to that. You know, my kids are used to that because we talk loud. But I meet a lot that don't, and so I've had to change. I can't get them to change. We had a situation last week where that same thing happened, where one of our production managers, I know he was in a hurry. We had a job that was probably going to be late, so he was probably talking to somebody very fast and probably a little bit louder than normal, not as polite as maybe he could have been, but he wasn't yelling at anybody. And all I got from the other people was, he was yelling at us. Why was he yelling at us? We didn't do anything. And it's all in our perception. It was all how we brought up. So we're having to figure out, how do we deal with that? And so I find I have to adapt before my employees will adapt. So I don't know if I answered your question at all on that, but we're learning as we go on those kind of things.
You talked about adaptability. Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? You or your company or both together?
That's hard. We see ourselves doing more into the digital. You know, we do digital printing. So I'm not going to talk about printing right now, but I'm going to talk about digital services. I believe there will always be printing. Now, maybe I'm the only one in the room that thinks that. But we know from studies that the reason that reminder card to those dentists is so successful is because they have the SMS and they have the email right next to it. But those get deleted immediately, right? And so the people miss their appointments, and believe it or not, to that dentist, that's worth hundreds of dollars. And so the dentists have found that printed piece sticks around better than email or SMS. And so we already know that print will stay, but now we have to show them how to use that print. So now we have to be able to combine print with digital. We might be selling digital signage by then. So that you go into a fast food restaurant and they've got the boards, the flat screens with all the pictures with the menus. We might be the ones doing all the programming and sending that message out or that signal out to all the franchises we're working with. We might provide them with the flat screens for all I know. We don't know. That's honestly where it's headed. But we know we've got to be looking today to figure out what is the next service. That's why we're really changing our byline. It used to be Alexander's Print Advantage. We're moving, now it's just Alexander's. And over the next few years, you'll probably see the byline under that of Communication Transformed. Because we see ourselves in the communication business today more than we see ourselves in the printing business. So we're trying to change, and I'll probably still be there, creature of habit. Who knows? But we're trying to look for new things all the time. Is there a question here?
So with how competitive the printing business is and everything like that, are you thinking about becoming more of a one-stop shop where you'll have designers and
We do.
businesses just come and say, this is what I want, and then you make the product, or are you still just get a file, maybe give a few suggestions?
Well, we've got both ways right now. We have designers, but the size of companies that we target now, so if you look at that 550 that I put up there, the 5%, our goal right now is to find more of the 5%. So get larger customers so that that 5% keeps changing for us, but yet it helps us grow the business. So we provide all those services, but most of our customers already have, they're big enough, they've already got all that staff. But for instance, on the marketing side, they may have the staff. We're going to try and help them with a little bit of expertise they don't have. Maybe it's in the social media. Maybe it's in public relations. We don't know exactly where it might be yet. But we want to be able to supplement what they've got in their marketing department with other services. So we are really already a one-stop shop in many, many, many ways. But most people, the biggest mistake I made was being really good at promoting a copy center. We've been spending the last 15 years trying to get that out of their minds because we still have too many people that see us as a copy center instead of as a commercial printing and communications house. Anything else? Yes, sir.
So your stint
Well, I'll tell you, one of the main things I learned, I was the chair of the budget committee in the House of Representatives for Utah for 4 years. That helped me learn more about budgets than anything I'd ever done. Remember, I was a communications major. What do they know about budgets? Anybody here communications? But seriously, so I was trying to learn, I've always been trying to learn more of the business side. And that helped me a lot with budgets. Helped me a lot with negotiating with people. Helped me a lot just being around people and communicating with them. So there were so many intangibles I received from it besides just helping people, you know, serving. And that taught me a lot of lessons too. But it also taught me I don't want to do it again. That was maybe the best thing it taught me. So I got to a point where I just wanted to get back to work.
What about all the discounting you got?
Yeah, that didn't pay well either. But there were so many, and so you find, you know, this giving value first, whether it's on, okay, something I forgot to say about that. You get out, you work for a company or you have a company. You join an organization. So we're in all kinds of organizations like the Utah Technology Council. We're part of the Franchise Business Networking. Well, the IFA, it's the International Franchise Association, but we sponsor and run for them in the state what's called an FBN, the Franchise Business Network. Again, that's giving value first. It puts us in front of all the franchises. You will need to find in whatever you do what you can do to serve. So if you're part of the Chamber of Commerce, you have to get involved. The Chamber of Commerce won't do you any good unless you're helping on a committee or something like that. So getting back to the politics, that's what it did for me. And it helped me meet so many people that I've been able to use today because I became acquainted with them in politics. So it was a big benefit that way. Any other questions? I guess I wore you out. Was there one over here? Is that it? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Here's a token of our appreciation for coming to speak with us today. Thank you so much.
Good to be here.